I got tangled up with a female con artist. It all started with a weird message 3 days back. A friend request. The verification note said, Su Qing, remember me. I am your lawfully wedded wife from your past life. I instantly hit reject and reported the account, figuring it was just the latest variation of a pig butchering scam. But then things took a weird turn. Starting that day, in my food delivery app, orders would mysteriously pop up every single day. From premium Weijia beef bowls to Boston lobster. The accompanying card was inscribed with sappy words. My husband, modern cuisine is truly extraordinary. Please, you try it first. Order more if it's not enough. My 3 roommates have gone from their initial astonishment to now bowing down to me in reverence daily, chanting in unison, thank you, sister-in-law, for the feast. I attempted to reason with him, to get him to cease this attention, but he just turned around and transferred 5,201,314 yuan to me instead. A voice message also came through. The voice sounded cool, detached, and oddly innocent. Darling, isn't this enough for a decent meal? Then I'll figure something else out. Staring at the 7-figure deposit in my bank account, I was lost in thought. Is this scammer taking their job a bit too seriously? So, what gourmet treats did your awesome brother and sis-in-law send you today? My chubby roommate sidled up to me like an eager puppy. His eyes were glued to the food delivery app on my phone screen. The other 2 roommates also popped their heads out from their beds. Their eyes were brimming with anticipation. I'm Su Qing, your average, run-of-the-mill engineering major. If I had to point out anything out of the ordinary, it's that 3 days ago, my life got completely turned upside down by a woman who claimed to be my wife from a previous life. Integrated into the revised translation of line 36, got completely turned upside down. At first, I just thought it was a prank. The account, called Smoke Enshrouding the Tower, had a profile picture of a classically beautiful woman. Right off the bat, he started spouting some weird, cryptic nonsense. I didn't hesitate for a second, blocked and reported him, all in one go. I thought that was the end of it and peace would finally reign, but boy, was I wrong. The very next day at noon, a lavish seafood paella, fit for a 5-star hotel, showed up right at the doorstep of our dorm. The order receipt was crystal clear. It had my name and phone number on it. The special instructions read, husband, have a little snack to tide you over. My mind went completely blank. I've never linked anyone else's payment method to my food delivery account. How on earth did he manage that? At first, my roommates just gave me a hard time about it, asking when I'd secretly landed a sugar mommy without telling them. That is, until I showed them the chat logs from my so-called wife from a past life. The whole dorm fell dead silent. Dude, you've been targeted by a new kind of supernatural being. Skinny Monkey adjusted his glasses and launched into a serious analysis. Or maybe some hidden tycoon is slumming it to test your character. I rolled my eyes at him. I clicked open the chat window for Yan Suo Chon Lu, which I had already taken out of my blacklist. My fingers trembled slightly as I typed. Who the hell are you? How did you get my personal information? Stop this right now, or I'm calling the cops. My message was met with dead silence. But then, around dinner time, a mountain of premium M9 Weijia beef barbecue arrived. It was delivered right on schedule, with elegant yet firm handwriting on the card. Darling, don't be upset. Getting worked up is bad for your health. My roommates went wild. They cheered, the missus is awesome. They dove into carving up those cuts of meat I couldn't even name. But I had zero appetite. A chill just crept up from the bottom of my feet. This was way beyond a simple prank. He knew not just my name and number, but my university and dorm room too. He can even manipulate my food delivery account with pinpoint accuracy. Su Qing, level with me. Did you get yourself into some romantic trouble out there? Fatty was chomping on a beef rib and asked me through a mouthful of food. I couldn't be bothered to answer. I opened that woman's profile again. This time, I decided to switch tactics. If a tough approach won't work, maybe a gentle one will. I need to get to the bottom of what he's after. I took a deep, steadying breath. I started mimicking the tactics taught by those relationship gurus. I tried to talk things out with him. To be honest, the snacks you sent were delicious. Thanks, I typed out this reply, though my heart wasn't really in it. A reply came back almost instantly. It was an over-the-moon happy emoji. Right after that, she texted again. I'm glad you liked it, hubby. What would you like to eat tomorrow? Just as I thought, she responds better to kindness than to pressure. I suppressed the disquiet inside me. Decided to play along and probe further. I'm easy, just go with whatever you think is best. But why are you being so nice to me? Because you're my husband. He answered matter-of-factly. as if stating an indisputable fact. A sense of helplessness washed over me. Trying to reason with someone in their own little world seems like a lost cause. But this is the modern world now, not our past life. I know I was trying to make her see reason. Once again, her answer took me by surprise. So I'm studying really hard. How to be a good wife in the modern age. I read in a book that the way to a man's heart is through his stomach. I looked at the screen, utterly dumbfounded. What kind of rubbish theory is this? For the next 2 days, the stream of food gifts continued unabated, and it kept escalating. From fancy French feasts to exquisite Japanese kaiseki, my 3 roommates' weight ballooned right before our eyes, and the looks they gave me grew increasingly reverent. I even tried contacting the food delivery app's customer support to track down where these orders were coming from, but they just said it was a close friend payment feature for premium members, and it couldn't be stopped unless the person who set it up called it off. On Friday night, my program's project team, because of a model data problem, we burned the midnight oil in the library. By the time we got back to the dorm, we were all exhausted and starving. Hey bro, why don't you ask your missus if she could spare us some late-night grub? Skinny Monkey suggested feebly. I shot him a dirty look, but seeing how worn out everyone looked, almost against my better judgment, I actually opened that chat window. Hey, are you around? I'm feeling a bit peckish. I instantly regretted hitting send. How did I start depending on her too? This baffling female con artist. But this time, she didn't reply right away. Half an hour passed, just when we'd given up hope, and were about to make some instant noodles. My phone started buzzing like crazy. It wasn't a call from the food delivery guy, but a text alert from my bank. Dear customer, your card ending in XXXX. The savings card account on a certain month and day. 2315 transferred in 5,201,314 renminbi yuan. The current balance is 5,203,426.50 yuan. I stared at that string of numbers and counted it 3 times over. Ones, tens, hundreds, thousands, 10,000s, 100,000s, 5.2 million. I felt as if struck by lightning. Frozen in place, the dormitory instantly fell silent. The 3 roommates leaned in with their heads together in unison, looking at my phone screen. His jaw dropped to the floor. Right then, a notification pinged. Yansuo Chonlu sent a voice note. My hands shaking, I tapped to play it. A cool, crisp, yet slightly puzzled female voice came through the speaker. My dear husband, I did some research. It seems you folks in modern times are quite fond of this. Here's some allowance to get you started. Go ahead and order whatever food you're craving. If that's not enough, I'll figure something else out. The fat guy's startled exclamation shattered the dorm's dead silence. Bro Chin, are you being kept? Skinny Monkey pushed his glasses up. Behind the lenses, his eyes were full of utter shock. I ignored their ridiculous chatter. My mind was in complete disarray. 5.2 million in pocket money. This is more than just a scam. Is this some kind of fantasy drama? My first thought was to call the police. This is absolutely dirty money. It's money laundering. In my bank account, as just a regular college student, over 5 million yuan just appeared out of nowhere. Tomorrow, the cops will probably haul me down to the station for questioning. In a panic, I tried to send the money back, only to find there was a transaction limit, and I didn't even have his bank account details. I was sweating bullets, totally frantic. I fired off a barrage of voice messages at that number. Are you out of your mind? Give me your bank account number, now. I'll refund you the money. I don't want your money. The other person took a long time to reply. His tone remained calm and unruffled. Why don't you want it? The book says that spending money on the person you love is only natural. I'm not the person you love. We don't know each other. What you're doing is illegal. I practically yelled into the phone. He just sent back a single word, and then he went silent again. I didn't sleep a wink that entire night. I scoured the internet for every kind of case about receiving mysterious large sums of money. The more I read, the more anxious I got. First thing the next morning, I dragged myself to the bank, sporting 2 dark circles under my eyes, to ask how to deal with this money. I was then informed that the transfer had a clear origin and was processed legally. The bank had no authority to simply reverse the transaction. Only I, personally, could initiate the refund. I felt myself falling into a massive trap. Monday mornings was when the college held one of its most mind-numbing required courses for the entire advanced mathematics department. And there I was, sitting in the lecture hall. Sitting in the back corner, completely spaced out. My head was swimming with that astronomical sum. right when the professor at the lectern was droning on and on about calculus. The lecture hall's heavy back door creaked open. Everyone's attention was instantly captured. Standing in the doorway was a girl. She was dressed in simple, understated. She wore a white dress, her long hair cascading to her waist, her entire demeanor cool and ethereal. She seemed otherworldly, as if untouched by mortal concerns. The moment she appeared, the very air in the entire classroom seemed to still. I recognized her, Lu Ruyan. She was a legend at our school, not for her looks, but for her utterly unapproachable, almost inhuman demeanor. Rumor had it that when the semester began, she arrived by helicopter. She was almost never seen at any club events or activities. He's seldom seen around campus, but the tales about him have never ceased. What's he doing here? With nearly 200 pairs of eyes watching, Lu Ruyan's gaze swept across the classroom, then landed squarely on me. My heart skipped a beat in that instant. A wildly absurd idea popped into my head. You've got to be kidding me. He completely disregarded the professor on the podium, who had halted mid-lecture, his face a picture of astonishment. He paid no mind to the stares of everyone in the room. With long strides, his high heels clicking, he walked step by deliberate step down the long aisle, heading directly for me. The sharp, clear tap-tap-tap of his heels echoed in the hushed lecture hall, each one seeming to hammer against my heart. The eyes of the entire class tracked his every move. The spotlight suddenly fell on me, a nobody in the corner. I was on pins and needles, wishing the ground would swallow me whole. Finally, he came to a halt before me and leaned in. His cool, quiet voice wasn't loud, but it carried clearly across the whole lecture hall. /husband. He looked at me, his gaze holding a hint of a stubbornness I couldn't decipher. Did you get the money? /why haven't you replied to my messages? The word husband detonated like a pair of grenades, exploding in the lecture hall. Time itself seemed to freeze in that instant. Up at the lectern, old Jean, the advanced math professor, held in his hand the integral symbol, only half written, stopped dead in its tracks. The chalk snapped with a sharp crack, the broken piece clattering to the floor and rolling away. Several top students in the front row, who had been nodding off, jolted awake and snapped their heads up. Their glasses nearly went flying. As for my 3 roommates next to me, their jaws had hit the floor, especially Fatty's. His eyes were bugging out so wide they looked ready to pop right out of his head. It was dead silent, broken only by the whoosh of air from the central AC vents. A few seconds later, the once quiet classroom erupted like a pot of boiling water. Holy crap, did I hear that right? Lu Ruyan just called her husband? What year is this? Are we doing cosplay now? Who's that guy? He looks kinda familiar. Oh, I remember now. Isn't that Su Qing, the guy on financial aid? That's the same Su Qing who lives on bread and pickles. What makes him so special? Has Goddess Lu lost her mind? I was bombarded with stares as sharp as arrows. If looks could kill, I'd probably be Swiss cheese by now. Especially those rich kids who've had a crush on Lu Ruyan. The looks they gave me were downright murderous, like they wanted to skin me alive. A chill ran down my spine. Cold sweat instantly drenched the back of my t-shirt. This isn't just calling me husband. This is clearly painting a target on my back. It's a death sentence. I forced a stiff smile. I was just about to explain that it was all a misunderstanding, or simply fake a fainting spell to get out of this mess. Suddenly, a shrill female voice cut through from the front of the classroom. It drowned out the surrounding chatter. Miss Lu, don't let this guy's good looks fool you. The crowd parted on its own. A girl in a designer skirt and flawless makeup stood up. Arms crossed, she strode down the aisle in her high heels. She gave me a once-over with a look of utter disdain, finally settling on Lu Ruyan's face. Lin Wan, the campus queen bee of our department. Also the girl I had a crush on back in college. Back then, I was still clueless about the vast divide created by wealth. He naively brought her breakfast for a whole month, only to be publicly mocked in the end. Su Qing, you can't even afford a Dior lipstick. What makes you think you're good enough for me? Don't come annoying me ever again. At this very moment, he is staring at me. His eyes are brimming with resentment and envy. To him, I'm nothing but the dirt beneath her feet. How could trash like me ever be worthy of Lu Ruyan, who is infinitely above her? Miss Lu. Lin Wan's voice rose sharply, as if afraid no one would hear. We're all in the same boat, we know each other's dirty laundry. This Su Qing is a penniless loser through and through. He relies entirely on financial aid to pay his tuition. He's so stingy he won't even order a meat dish when he eats. He's only after you for your money. A gold-digging loser like him would do anything for a buck. He's not even fit to lick your boots. Silence fell over the classroom once more. All eyes turned to Lu Ruyan, waiting to see this drama unfold. Many of the boys wore smug, gloating looks. It seemed they were all waiting for Lu Ruyan to see my true colors and then slap me right across the face. I clenched my fists. My nails dug deep into my palms. Poverty was my Achilles heel. To have Lin Wan lay it bare like this, and rip open the wound in front of everyone, the shame burned my cheeks like fire. I tried to argue back, but the words got stuck in my throat. Because he was telling the truth, I am poor. I was poor, and I owned it without shame. Yet, that poverty left me in a wretched, humiliating state. Lu Ruyan remained silent. He didn't even bother to look at Lin Wan. Instead, he merely tilted his head slightly and snapped his fingers into the empty space. The sharp snap had barely faded when the classroom's back door swung open once more. 2 bodyguards in black suits and sunglasses entered. They strode in with purpose. Their gaze remained fixed ahead. They made a beeline for the podium. One of them courteously ushered aside a bewildered old Zhang. The other swiftly produced a tablet and hooked it up to the classroom's multimedia projector. A hum of electricity sounded. The large screen, previously covered in calculus formulas, flickered. Then, a high-definition scan of a document appeared, sending a wave of murmurs through the room. This was no ordinary family background check. It's not some cliched, sensational engagement story from a wealthy family. The first image is a certificate with a red background and gold lettering. First prize, National High School Mathematics League. Recipient, Su Qing. Then, the images start rolling in succession. Special prize, ACM International Collegiate Programming Contest, Asia Region. Gold Award, National College Student Information Security Competition. Core Contributor Certification for a prominent open-source project on GitHub. The crowd, initially waiting to revel in his embarrassment, began to stir restlessly. The hushed whispers erupted into gasps of astonishment. The sneer on Lin Wan's face instantly stiffened. Her mouth fell open, words seemingly caught in her throat. But the evidence was still glaring on the screen before her. Displayed was a detailed bank transaction history and a comprehensive work record. The timeline covered my entire university life, from freshman year all the way up to yesterday. Part-time backend dev, 3 all-nighters, payment, 3,000 yuan. Ghostwriting a complex algorithm model, fee, 5,000 yuan. Patching a corporate database vulnerability, compensation, 12,000 yuan. Every penny I earned was the fruit of countless lines of code written through sleepless nights. The flow of these funds is also clearly documented. 60% was transferred to a county hospital account, with the note, Sister's dialysis fees. 30% was transferred to my grandmother's account back home, with the note, living expenses. The remaining 10% was dispersed as donations to the Sunshine Orphanage's account, marked anonymous. The remaining 10% was dispersed as donations to the Sunshine Orphanage's account, marked anonymous. The final image is a photo of me hunkered down in my dorm, eating a cup of instant noodles. In the background are the figures of my 3 roommates, absorbed in their video games. Meanwhile, my computer screen is filled with lines of complex code. A small caption beside the photo reads, account balance, 25.6 yuan. This is me, reigning supreme in the digital world. In my real life, I was pinching pennies over a 5 yuan meal. I stared dumbstruck at the screen, my mind a complete blank. I had carried out all these activities with the utmost secrecy. Even my buddies like Fatty had no clue what I was really up to. They just figured I was fooling around. I never breathed a word to anyone about my family situation, or about the orphanage. How on earth did Lu Ruyan find out? He had dug up everything about me. A deathly silence fell over the classroom. All those sneering and scornful looks, now transformed completely into shock, disbelief, and even a hint of shame. Lin Wan's face went ghostly white, her body teetering on the verge of collapse. Her eyes were glued to the awards and transaction records on the screen, things she'd never laid eyes on. Her gaze remained locked on those unfamiliar accolades and bank transfers displayed before her. Her lips quivered, but no words could escape them for what felt like an eternity. At long last, the penniless Lu Ruyan broke her silence. She turned and faced Lin Wan squarely, meeting her gaze head-on for the very first time. Her eyes were icy cold, bearing an overwhelming, condescending pressure. To you, he's just a penniless student struggling to put food on the table. But to me, he's a rough diamond, untouched by the cynicism of the world. Lu Ruyan strode forward, closing in on Lin Wan with each deliberate step. The click of her high heels on the floor echoed like the blows of a heavy hammer, pounding against everyone's heart. With those very hands that write code, she held together her shattered family. She fought to keep her loved ones alive. and still had the heart to extend warmth to strangers. She never begged from a soul, never sold her dignity. Every single cent is earned honestly. He came to a halt before Lin Wan. His height gave him the advantage of looking down on her. You claim he's not good enough for me. Lu Ruyan sneered. The sneer was laced with disdain and arrogance. He whirled around and thrust out a hand. In one swift motion, he seized my wrist. His grip was icy yet unyielding. He held on so tight it was painful. The man I fancy isn't someone whose worth can be counted in dollars. The grit and brilliance that are part of her very essence are the brightest badge of honor in my book. Unlike you lot, blowing through your parents' cash and judging books solely by their covers, he's worth 1,000,000 of you. Those words landed like a stinging slap across the face. It struck Lin Wan right across the cheek, and it was a blow to the pride of everyone there who had been laughing at me. Lin Wan stumbled back and collapsed into her seat. My face alternated between blushing and paling. Tears welled up in my eyes. Yet I couldn't even bring myself to look up. I gazed at Lu Ruyan's profile. Sunlight streamed through the window, bathing her in its glow, outlining her with a faint golden halo. Her lips were pressed into a tight line. Her eyes held a firm, unwavering resolve. In that instant, I heard the violent pounding of my own heart. All this time, I had been hiding behind a thick, protective shell. I used to shield myself from the world's judgment with a cold front and self-deprecating humor. But now, this defense was shattered by a woman named Lu Ruyan, in a domineering and utterly unreasonable manner. Not only did she not scorn the pitiful mess I was inside, she actually dragged that hidden part of me out into the sunlight, and proclaimed to the world that I was a treasure. The fortress I had painstakingly built around my heart was breached by a massive, rending crack. Without giving anyone a chance to process what had just happened, Lu Ruyan grabbed my hand and pulled me away from it all. Hold on, class isn't over yet. Old Zhang piped up feebly from the teacher's desk. Lu Ruyan didn't so much as glance back. He'd already aced this lesson's material ages ago. Sticking around would be a total waste of time. The bodyguards promptly stowed their gear. They flanked us like a pair of human shields, cutting off any and all curious stares. And just like that, with over 200 pairs of eyes in the classroom fixed on us, she led me away. Like a helpless civilian being abducted against his will, he was unceremoniously dragged out of the classroom. Once outside the building, a sleek black stretch limousine was already waiting by the curb. Its contours were sleek and fluid. Its paint job gleamed under the sun, practically screaming wealth. A chauffeur in white gloves respectfully held open the rear passenger door. Once inside, Lu Ruyan released my hand. She got straight to the point. Where to? I've got class this afternoon. I made a feeble attempt to resist, even though that scene was incredibly satisfying. But things are moving way too fast. I can't quite keep up with the pace. Lu Ruyan paid no mind, and unceremoniously shoved me into the car, then climbed in herself, slammed the car door shut. The car's interior was shockingly spacious. The air conditioning was cranked up high. There was even a faint, lingering scent of incense. As the window glided up, it shut out the clamor of the outside world. Lu Ruyan settled back into the plush leather seat. That imperious, queen-like demeanor she had just displayed in the classroom instantly softened and receded, giving way to a faint but palpable weariness. She massaged her temples wearily. From the storage rack beside her, she retrieved a craft paper envelope and tossed it casually into my lap. What's this? Puzzled, I picked up the envelope. It feels weighty in my hands. I look at him. He speaks with his eyes closed. I undo the knotted cord. I pull out the document folder from inside, thinking it was just more bank transfer records, or maybe a property deed or something similar. But when I looked closely, several bold, black characters in the title, I almost flung the documents away. Trial version of the post-marital duty fulfillment agreement. My hand shook. What's the deal with the documents scattered everywhere? I gulped. My throat felt parched. Lu Ruyan's eyes fluttered open. Her captivating gaze was fixed intently on me. A playful smirk tugged at the corner of her lips. She leaned in slightly, closing the gap between us. Instinctively, I recoiled, until my back was flush against the car door, trapped with nowhere left to go. Now that your identity and background have been exposed, and I've already settled the score for you, now the entire school knows you belong to me. She reached out with a slender finger and lightly tapped the document in my hand. Her voice was low and seductive. Darling, it's time to come home with me and fulfill your marital obligations. That marital duties fulfillment agreement, I didn't even bother to look at it, was whisked away in a luxury car to an upscale residential complex called Jingxiao Binjiang, Brocade Riverside. The elevator ascended straight to the penthouse. The moment the doors parted, an opulence that would take an ordinary person 10 lifetimes to earn washed over them. Beyond the 270-degree panoramic floor-to-ceiling windows, the river rushed by, and neon lights glittered. Lying low here, Lu Ruyan tossed that exorbitantly expensive Hermes bag by the entryway and slipped into a pair of plush slippers. Her tone was utterly nonchalant. It was like he was just telling me to take out the trash. You stole the show today. I've already gotten you a week off from school. Someone like Lin Wan is vindictive. It won't be safe for you to go back to the dorm for the next few days. I was standing at the door, still clutching the craft paper envelope with the agreement inside. I was stuck, not knowing whether to leave or stay. I was just about to bring up that agreement. Let's not worry about that now, let's eat first. Lu Ruyan cut me off, gesturing towards the dining area. Aunt Zhang prepared the food and left. It's all still warm. Compelled by her undeniable, commanding presence, I was ushered over to the dining table. On the table sat 2 servings of beef Wellington. Alongside them were a few delicate side dishes. I took a seat and robotically picked up my cutlery. The day's events had been utterly surreal. My mental CPU was fried. I desperately needed to refuel. I had just cut a piece of meat and was about to take a bite. A pale hand suddenly reached over and whisked away the plate right in front of me. What are you doing? I reacted instinctively, protective of my meal. Lu Ruyan ignored me. She kept her head down. With a look of intense concentration, she wielded her knife and fork with swift, deft movements. She proceeded to cut that steak into a series of perfectly uniform diamond-shaped pieces. I was dumbfounded. This was my peculiar quirk when it came to food. I've never been fond of square or rectangular cuts of meat. I've always had this thing where I think the meat only feels right when it's cut into diamond shapes. It has to be chewed along the grain to feel satisfying. Even my own mother is unaware of this little habit of mine, because the braised pork we eat at home is never served pre-cut. Right after that, she picked up my soup bowl. Then, with incredible patience, she used a spoon to meticulously pick out every single bit of the chopped green onions floating on top. I don't eat green onions, I mumbled. I know, Lu Ruyan said as she slid the now ready steak and soup back over to me. He casually passed me a wet wipe. His movements were fluid and effortless, as if we had shared thousands of meals together. Hurry up and eat before it gets cold and loses its flavor. My eyes were fixed on the neatly arranged, diamond-shaped pieces of meat, and the hairs on the back of my neck stood on end one by one. If the earlier bank transfer was like a superpower, then these intimate details felt like surveillance. The fact that I don't eat scallions, he might have found out from. You knew from my food delivery instructions, but the way I cut my meat, unless you've planted a hidden camera on me. I can't think of any other explanation. You've been spying on me. I dropped my cutlery and glared at him intently. Lu Ruyan's hand, in the middle of cutting meat, froze. He looked up, and in his eyes, there was actually a flicker of helplessness. I've told you, we're married. He set down his utensils, rested his chin on his hand, and looked at me. We spent 3 decades together in our past life. Every single one of your quirks and habits, they've been etched into my memory for 30 long years. I scoffed. I wasn't even born at that time. / in our past life, he corrected me, his tone firm. / in our last life, fate brought us together, but destiny kept us apart. / we were only husband and wife for part of the journey. / in this lifetime, I'm going to nurture you from the start. The word nurture sent a shiver down my spine. This woman is either completely nuts or way too into her delusion. After supper, she showed me to the guest room. The room was spacious, furnished like a 5-star hotel suite. A brand new set of pajamas was laid out on the bedside table. There was also a small, clear box. I stepped closer for a look, and my blood ran cold. It was a silicone night guard for bruxism. I suffer from bruxism at night, but I thought I was the only one who knew about it. I'm a light sleeper, so the grinding would sometimes wake me up. That's how I became aware of it. Even my roommate, Fatty, who I've shared a place with for 3 years, never noticed it, because I always wake up the moment I start grinding my teeth. Lu Ruyan leaned in the doorway, arms crossed, watching my rigid back with a knowing smirk. This was another detail she remembered from her past life. I turned to face her, my voice tense. She nodded. You grind your teeth horribly, like a rat chewing on wood. You wore them down to nothing in your last life. You'd better watch out in this one. He spoke while approaching me. His eyes landed squarely on my left foot, making no attempt to hide it. I was wearing a pair of sneakers today. Right now, they were planted firmly on the carpet. Then he pointed at my left foot. When you shower, Be careful not to scrub too vigorously. That red mole on the sole of your left foot. Once it's broken, it's really hard to get the bleeding to stop. The final bastion of my mental defenses crumbled. That mole is located in an incredibly private spot. With socks on, the mark on my sole is completely hidden. Even at the public baths, no one's checking out other people's feet. This goes way beyond anything past life memories could explain. This is next level, stalker grade paranoia. It washed over me like a tidal wave. This woman has me completely figured out, but I know zilch about her. I'm like an open book to her, completely exposed and vulnerable before her. I'm off to shower, you should turn in early. Lu Ruyan seemed quite pleased. My horrified expression. Reached out to pat my head. I dodged by tilting my head away. He didn't get upset, just chuckled softly. He turned and left the room, with the sound of the master bedroom door shutting, followed immediately by the sound of running water. She's in the shower. This is my chance. I crept out of the guest room on tiptoe. The expansive penthouse floor was blanketed with plush carpeting. It swallowed up every sound of footsteps. I felt like a cat burglar sneaking around. Holding my breath, I inched my way toward his study door. The door was ajar. I pushed it and slipped inside. Not daring to switch on a light, I relied on the moonlight filtering through the window. My eyes darted around the room, taking in everything. I was searching for surveillance devices, or any investigative files concerning me. Once I get my hands on the evidence, I can report him to the police. Or at the very least, I can call him out on his lies. The desk was massive, cluttered with stacks of papers and files. I rifled through them hastily. Most of it was gibberish to me, business reports and contracts I couldn't make heads or tails of. All of a sudden, the spines of 2 books gleamed with an eerie glow in the moonlight. They were positioned perfectly upright, right in the most prominent spot on the desk, as if they were thumbed through on a regular basis. I leaned in for a closer look. My heart suddenly skipped a beat. The title of the book on the left read, / The Scientific Guide to Raising an Engineering Guy. On the cover was a man wearing glasses, trapped inside a cage, clutching a circuit board. The book on the right was even more spine-chilling. / Hypnosis and Memory Implantation, a complete guide from novice to expert. With trembling hands, I flipped it open. That book on hypnosis and memory reconstruction. Its pages were stuffed with many bookmarks, each one densely covered with handwritten notes. The target subject is highly defensive. Must create a sense of predestined fate. Employ repeated psychological conditioning. Implant the idea of a past life connection. Use specific details to shatter their mental barriers. Each word struck me like a sledgehammer, pounding mercilessly against my skull. All that talk of past life soulmates, that profound love and devotion. This is a complete and utter scam from start to finish. She's no lovesick heroine reborn from tragedy. She's nothing but a mentally twisted control freak. She's been using all these tricks to try and brainwash me, to make me buy into memories that never even existed, to turn me into his willing plaything. The shower stopped running. I jumped out of my skin in fright. Flustered, I snapped the book shut and shoved it back where it belonged. Then I froze in place, trembling like a frightened rabbit. I scrambled back to the guest room, dove under the covers, and trembled. I lay awake all night, staring until morning light. The next morning, Lu Ruyan seemed to be in a remarkably good mood. She was even humming to herself while making breakfast. / I need to go back to campus to get some project materials. I tried hard to keep my voice steady. I couldn't meet his eyes. Lu Ruyan was pouring milk. Her hand paused mid-pour, then she turned to face me, her smile gentle. Shall I have the driver take you? No, I'll take the subway, it's faster. The words came out in an earshout. Realizing I'd overreacted, I quickly tried to smooth things over. I just want to get some fresh air. She fixed her gaze on me for a moment. Her gaze felt like it could see right through me. Just as I was bracing myself for a rejection, she gave a nod. Don't be long. Once I was out of that gilded cage of a mansion, I could finally breathe freely again. Naturally, I didn't head back to campus. Instead, I found myself sitting in the consulting room of a discreet, high-end psychotherapy practice, across from a white-haired, distinguished-looking professor. He's also the top expert in hypnosis and memory in the city. To get an appointment with him, I used up all the private money I'd stashed away over the years. Doctor, I need to know if I've lost my memory. My hands clenched the chair's arms, knuckles white. Or if someone locked away my memories from a past life. The elderly professor adjusted his reading glasses. He gave me a look you'd give a mental patient. But, ever the professional, he still took out a pocket watch. Relax, young man. If those things truly exist in your subconscious, I'll help you uncover them. For the next hour, I felt as if I were adrift in an endless, dark void. I realized I had no control over my body. I frantically searched through the darkness, searching for that 30-year marriage Lu Ruyan mentioned, searching for those alleged karmic ties from a past life. Yet I found nothing at all. Nothing but boundless, crushing loneliness. Only memories of fighting tooth and nail to survive since I was a kid. Only an endless sea of code and bills I could never pay off. With a sharp snap of the fingers, I jolted awake, gasping for air in ragged, heaving breaths. A cold sweat had drenched my back. "Well, what did you see?" I asked urgently, grabbing the doctor's hand. "Did you see her? That woman? Was she there?" The elderly professor shook his head, his expression regretful. Then he handed me a diagnosis. "Young man, your subconscious is remarkably clear, yet also quite one-dimensional. Aside from anxiety and stress, there are no repressed memories at all, let alone any memories of past lives." He paused, then said with earnest concern, "From a medical standpoint, the notion of past life memories is fundamentally unfounded. If someone is intent on convincing you that you have them, then that is a highly sophisticated form of psychological suggestion, or what's known as gaslighting." Clutching the diagnosis report, I stepped out of the clinic. The noon sun was blinding, forcing me to squint. Yet, a chill ran through my heart. It's the final nail in the coffin. There was no past life destiny, only an elaborately crafted deception. That woman, Lu Ruyan, she is a demon in a beautiful woman's guise. She dazzled me with her wealth, intimidated me with meticulous details, and held me hostage with tales of a past life. But I have to go back. My ID and student card, and the laptop with all my core code on it, are all left at his place. Most importantly, if I don't get to the bottom of this, what on earth he's up to, I'll never have a moment's peace for the rest of my life. By the time I got back to Jingxi of Binjiang, it was already 4 in the afternoon. I pushed the door open. The place was dead silent. Lu Ruyan isn't in the living room. A huge black gift box sits on the coffee table. A note is tucked beside it. "Darling, I got you a little gift. Hope you like it. Love, Yurian." The handwriting is elegant, but it reeks of a sickly sweet sentiment. I walk over and unwrap the gift box. Inside lies a custom-built mechanical keyboard. It has a casing made of aerospace-grade aluminum, fitted with premium switches and keycaps that must have cost a fortune. It's my favorite black and gray color combo. This is a concept image I posted on my WeChat moments before. Back then, I just sighed about how expensive it was and that I couldn't afford it. So he really has been keeping tabs on me. My emotions were all over the place as I ran my fingers over the keyboard. The cold metal shell. That solid, hefty feel is truly something you don't want to let go of. Suddenly, my finger prodded the bottom of the box. The foam padding didn't feel right. The foam felt a bit loose to the touch. It seems there's another hidden layer underneath. Compelled by curiosity, I dug my fingers under the edge of the foam padding. I yanked it up. A photo slipped out and floated down. It landed on the carpet. I stooped to pick it up. It was a slightly yellowed, old photograph. The picture wasn't very sharp. It looked like it was shot on an old film camera. The backdrop was a landscape of ruins. Amidst the rubble and ruins, 2 grubby kids sat side by side on a big boulder. The one on the left is a boy, skinny as a rake, his face smeared with dirt, only a pair of wary eyes peering out. That was me at 7 years old. I recognized that holy vest. It was the standard issue uniform from the orphanage. The one on the right is a girl, dressed in a fine white lace dress, now soiled and torn. He was clutching a teddy bear with a broken leg tightly to his chest. His head was tilted to one side. He was offering half a bun to the little boy. My hands started shaking uncontrollably. I had never laid eyes on this picture before, nor was there any trace of it in my memory. Not a single memory fragment of this little girl. A devastating fire swept through the orphanage when I was 7. After a severe illness, when I finally came to, many of my memories had become hazy and fragmented. I flipped the photo over. On the back of the photo, in faded fountain pen ink, was written the date, May 12, 2008. Exactly 15 years ago. I held that yellowed photograph. My fingers began to tremble uncontrollably. The edges of the photograph were worn and frayed. That date on the back, May 12, 2008, was like a searing branding iron, seared itself into my mind's eye. In that instant, deep within my mind, it felt as if something had detonated. A violent, overwhelming pain came crashing in like a tidal wave, drowning out every last shred of coherent thought. I was forced to let the photo fall from my grasp, clutching my head desperately with both hands. my entire body curling into a fetal ball on the carpet. The serene quiet of the apartment with its river view was gone from my ears, replaced by the chaotic din of pouring rain and anguished cries, and the low, sickening rumble of mud churning and surging. A memory I had sealed away for 15 years, triggered by this photograph, was violently torn open. I was 7 years old that year. A massive flood had hit my hometown, so my parents had to repair our house. They temporarily sent me to stay at a rural orphanage in the next county over. The conditions there were deplorable. It was less an orphanage and more like. His eyes were unnaturally huge. They were brimming with fear and wariness. That was our first encounter. Then, the scene shifted to a night of pouring rain. He came down with a raging fever, burning up like a furnace. The orphanage attendant was dead drunk and paid no heed. I watched his breaths grow fainter and fainter. His face flushed a burning red. My mind was consumed by a single thought: he's going to die. My 7-year-old self made a decision that, looking back, seems utterly insane. I hoisted her onto my back and charged into the downpour. Back then I was as scrawny as a bean sprout. Carrying her felt like I was hauling a mountain on my shoulders. The Tenley mountain path was nothing but muck and mire. Rain and mud slurry blinded me, caking over my eyes. My shoes were lost to the mud long ago. The sharp stones shredded the soles of my feet to a bloody mess. Every step felt like walking on a knife's edge. I lost count of how many times I tumbled. My knees were skinned and my palms were rubbed raw. Stay awake, you must stay awake. I kept yelling in his ear, again and again. My voice grew so ragged, I could barely make out my own words. She was slumped against my back. Her scalding tears streamed down my neck. In that rain-soaked night, that was the only warmth I felt. It all came back to me. I remembered everything. There was no past life connection as husband and wife, nor was there any fateful bond from a former life. That mute child I carried on my back for 10 miles along a mountain path, to seek help from a village doctor. That little girl who was later whisked away in a black luxury car, and vanished without a trace ever since, was none other than Lou Ruyan. No wonder he knows all my eating habits, because back in that dilapidated temple, we shared a single steamed bun and drank from the same bowl of congee. No wonder he knows about the mole on the sole of my foot, because that night, the barefoot doctor was removing the blisters and gravel from the sole of my foot. He stood guard right beside me, his gaze fixed intently on my foot, watching me gasp for breath. My pajamas were drenched in cold sweat. That photo on the carpet. 2 grimy kids were smiling back at me. That smile, bridging a gap of 15 years, pierced through every lie like a sharp blade. With a click, the electronic lock on the front door disengaged and swung open. The click-clack of high heels echoed on the floor, growing louder as they approached. I pushed myself up from the couch and got to my feet. I was clutching the photo so tightly in my hand that my knuckles turned white. Lou Ruyan entered, laden with shopping bags. Her face wore that gentle, inscrutable smile of hers. "Darling, you're up already?" I picked up some. Her words died in her throat. Her eyes locked onto the photo in my hand. The color instantly drained from her face, leaving it deathly pale. The shopping bag slipped from her grasp and hit the floor with a thud. The fruit inside spilled out and scattered everywhere. Her voice shook with emotion. I advanced on him, one deliberate step at a time. With every step, the fury within me blazed hotter. So this is the past life you were talking about. I thrust the photo right under his nose. My voice was icy. Lou Ruyan, you're a first-class storyteller, I'll give you that. You even went so far as to learn hypnosis just to back up this ridiculous lie. Bought all that junk. Do you get a kick out of making a monkey out of me? Lou Ruyan's eyes were glued to that photograph. She began to tremble. That regal, untouchable air of hers vanished into thin air in an instant. She looked like a guilty child. In a panic, she averted her eyes. I didn't do it on purpose. Tears welled up in his eyes instantly. It wasn't on purpose. I sneered coldly, slammed the photo down onto the coffee table. Then explain to me why you had to lie. We obviously knew each other since we were kids. We're obviously old classmates. You just had to cook up this whole life from a past life story, and then try to dazzle me with your money. Do I look like a complete joke to you? No, that's not it. Lou Ruyan's head snapped up. Tears streamed down my face. She darted forward, reaching for my hand. But I shook her off. Then why? I roared. You're the Lou family heiress, worth billions. And what am I? A broke scholarship student who can't even afford tuition. If you had just told me you were that little mute from our past, I might have been grateful. We might have caught up. But you had to pull this damn stunt. Are you looking down on me? Or are you toying with me because of my fear? Lu Ruyan cried out, her voice raw and strained. A sob choked her voice. He stood there, his shoulders heaving violently. Tears streamed down her face. Su Qing, take a good look at what I've become. Now look at yourself. What if I just came out and said it? That I was the little mute from all those years ago? What would you do? Would you ever accept my help? Could you really spend my money without a second thought? I froze for a moment. Of course you couldn't. He was talking to himself. His voice trailed off, laden with boundless hurt. Your pride runs deeper than anyone else's. Remember that half a bun from our past? You'd stretch it out over 2 meals. So how could you possibly now? Accepting a handout from a rich heiress. If I showed up just as an old acquaintance, you'd just push me even farther away. You'd just feel like we're worlds apart, and then avoid me like the plague. His words hit me like a sledgehammer. They slammed into my chest. He was right. If, 3 days ago, he had shown up as an old classmate, or as someone I'd once helped, if you just handed me a few million, or gifted me a luxury car, I'd absolutely take it as an insult. I'd turn it down without a second thought, and cut all ties with you for good. Poverty makes me overly sensitive. Insecurity makes me cling tighter to that fragile sense of dignity. So that's why you spun that tale about me watching him in a past life? His tone softened a little, but the lingering resentment remains. Because only the bond of marriage, only destiny, can make you feel. All of this is a given. Lu Ruyan wiped her tears away. She sniffled. Her eyes held a stubborn glint. The book says, if it's a debt from a past life, or a fate written in the stars, a man will let down his guard. I don't want you to feel like this is charity. I want you to feel, this is something I owe you. It's what you rightfully deserve. He moved a step closer. Those eyes, usually so cool and detached, and calculation, were now stripped bare, revealing only raw, unguarded sincerity, and a touch of trepidation. It's been 15 years. I've searched for you all these 15 long years. At that time, I was powerless to do anything. All I could do was cling to your back and weep. But now, I have the power. I want to give you the entire world. The finest things this world has to offer. Is that so wrong? Gazing at the girl before me, her face streaked with tears like rain-drenched pear blossoms, the fury in my heart was doused as if by a sudden downpour. In its place is a bittersweet ache that's hard to put into words. That once high and mighty Lu Ruyan, that lavish sugar mommy who threw money around like water, was, at her core, still the same little girl who used to trail behind me, the voiceless girl who needed me to look out for her. She went to great lengths, weaving a web of lies with all her cunning, mastered those godforsaken hypnotic arts. All of it, just to protect my fragile, laughable pride. My lips parted, but my throat was parched, words stuck. I'll stop calling you husband, alright? Lu Ruyan gazed at me cautiously, as if awaiting a judgment. Please don't leave, don't shut me out. You're the only one I trust. Those words instantly shattered my final defenses. That rainy night 15 years ago, she had clutched my clothes just like this, her eyes filled with utter reliance. With a sigh, I walked over to her. Reaching out, I clumsily wiped the tears from her cheeks. How silly, I muttered under my breath. If it's about repaying a favor, why not just hand over a check? No need to go through all this trouble. You just rip up the check, she retorted between sobs. I wouldn't now, I said earnestly, meeting his gaze, because now I know who you really are. Lu Ruyan paused, taken aback, before a smile broke through her tears. That smile was free of its former pretense and guardedness. It was as clear as a rain-washed sky. The misunderstanding had melted away. The palpable tension that had hung in the air like drawn swords finally evaporated. In its place was a delicate sense of affection. Never before have we been this close to each other. Gone is the fabricated tale of a husband and wife from a past life. Nor is it the class divide pitting a tycoon against a pauper. Instead, it's about two souls who weathered life's storms together, reuniting once more after 15 long years. As I gazed at him, my heart began to race. Perhaps this whole absurd journey could actually lead to a proper start. Is our agreement still on? He blurted out, his face flushing and his gaze darting away. What's this about a post-nuptial dance agreement? I was just about to voice my sarcasm when a jarring phone ringtone suddenly shattered the tense atmosphere. It was Lu Ruyan's phone. Frowning, she fished her phone out of her pocket. The screen lit up with the word Dad. Hello, Dad, she answered. Her tone regained some of its customary aloofness. But in the very next moment, all the color drained from her face. His face was even more ghastly than when I just caught him in the lie. It was a deathly, ashen pallor, utterly devoid of life. What are you saying? His voice shook. He looked as if the very spine had been ripped from his body. He swayed, unsteady on his feet. Crash, the latest smartphone slipped from his grasp and slammed onto the marble floor, its screen shattering into 1,000 pieces. What happened? My heart clenched. A sense of profound dread washed over me. I quickly moved to steady her. Lu Ruyan turned to face me. The sheer emptiness and despair in her eyes were terrifying. The joy and bashfulness of our reunion moments ago had vanished into thin air, replaced instead by a profound terror. She parted her lips quivering. It took her a long moment to force out a coherent sentence. Su Qing, forget about me. With that, she shoved me away with all her strength, whirled around and made a dash for the door. I seized her wrist in a firm grip. What the hell is going on? Tell me everything. Right then, the screen of my phone on the coffee table suddenly lit up with a breaking news alert, accompanied by a jarring alert tone. The blood-red headlines instantly seared my eyes. Shocking breaking, billion-dollar empire crumbles. Lu Group's funding chain completely snaps. Suspected of massive financial fraud involving billions. Chairman taken into custody by police for questioning. Lu's stock price flash crashed at market open, plummeting 99%. When I came to, my head was throbbing with pain. The harsh morning light streamed through the living room's floor-to-ceiling window. The curtains were open. I pushed myself up from the carpet. My neck was stiff and sore. I had spent the night right there on the living room floor. The house was deathly quiet. Lu Ruyan was gone. No answer. The woman who, just yesterday, was in tears, saying, "You're the only one I trust," was nowhere to be found. The 15-year-old photograph on the coffee table was missing. In its place lay a neatly folded letter. Underneath it lay the bank card with 5.2 million yuan. I unfolded the letter. The handwriting was messy and hurried, as if it had been written in a rush. Su Qing, our ties are severed. Don't dwell on me. The Lu family is a bottomless money pit. I can't bear this burden, and I won't drag you down with me. The money is for you. Consider it compensation for what happened back then. Forget about me. Live a good life. I pulled out my phone and called his number. We're sorry. The number you have dialed has been switched off. Opening the chat, the message was marked with a red exclamation point. It was a painful sight. Blocked and deleted in one fell swoop, he was gone. To keep me from being saddled with the Lu family's crushing debt, he chose to bear the burden alone. Just like on that rainy night 15 years ago. Trying to vanish into the shadows again, how foolish. I snatched up that bank card. My fingers gripped it so tightly my knuckles turned white. If this were the old Su Qing, I might have felt anger and inferiority. I might have seen it as a rich man's game. But now, I just find it laughable. He thinks money can fix anything, or that without money, no problem can be solved. I turn on the TV to the news channel. The screen shows the dire situation of the Lu Group on a continuous news ticker. The Lu Group's financial fraud scandal continues to unfold. Chairman Lu Jiangguo has been hospitalized following a sudden heart attack. The eldest daughter, Lu Ruyan, steps up to take the helm amidst the crisis, but is now facing a boardroom coup. Reports indicate the Lu Group's books show a staggering 30 billion yuan deficit. Their rival, Dingshan Group, has 100 million yuan at hand to snap up Lu Group's shares. The scene cuts to outside the Lu Group headquarters. Furious shareholders are protesting with banners. The glass doors are splattered with rotten vegetables and eggs. 30 billion. I scoff. I may not be a finance guru, but I know how to read the numbers. When that news hit last night, I had a gut feeling something was fishy. The Lu Group was built on a solid industrial foundation. Its cash flow has always been rock solid. How could 30 billion just vanish into thin air overnight? Unless someone was pulling the strings behind the scenes and tampered with the underlying data. I took my seat in front of that high-end computer Lu Ruyan had gifted me, cracked my knuckles and rolled my wrists. Well, since you saw fit to leave me 5.2 million as a parting gift, then I'll make this money work for me. I pulled up a black web interface. It was a computing power rental platform on the dark web. For an elite hacker, money isn't for splurging, it's for buying weapons. And in this digital era, computing power is the nuclear weapon. Leasing high-performance server clusters, with nodes scattered across North America, Eastern Europe, and Southeast Asia. Acquire top-tier access to the vulnerability database intelligence. Activate a multi-layered proxy chain. 5.2 million yuan, vanished in just 10 minutes. Drained away like water down the drain. The cascading data streams on the monitor started to skyrocket at a frantic pace. Su Qing is no longer my name. In the abyssal depths of cyberspace, I go by a far more formidable alias. My first move isn't to audit the ledger, but to step into the arena. I've invested the remaining 1 million yuan into the futures market. My target is Dingxin Group, going all in with 100-fold leverage to short it. Everyone is buying up Dingxin Group's shares, betting the share price will skyrocket after it gobbles up Lu City. But I'm betting it'll crash and burn today. If I win, this 1 million will turn into a dagger to slit the throat of capital. If I lose, there is no if. Let's begin. I hit enter. A massive torrent of computing power instantly smashed through the Lu Group's already riddled with holes firewall. I move like a ghost, weaving through their servers. The financial system's encryption is top-notch, but against the zero-day exploit I bought for 3 million, integrated into line 1218, it crumpled like paper. The data stream unfolds right before my eyes. Just as I suspected, it's not an operational loss at all. Instead, someone planted a virus. They maliciously altered the decimal places in the financial ledger. They disguised a massive amount of liquid assets as losses. The funds were then funneled out through hundreds of shell companies. The IP address used to plant the virus is located inside the Lu Corporation headquarters building. Following the digital trail, I pinpointed the exact computer. The financial director, Zhao Defa. The money trail ultimately led, all funneled into a single offshore account. The company's link to the account holder turned out to be the controlling entity of Dingxin Group, an inside job, shorting their own stock. Buy low, then launder the siphoned funds back in. Clever. A cold smirk played on my lips. Since you love playing games with numbers, I'll raise you one better. My fingers flew over the mechanical keyboard. The tapping sounds came fast and furious, like a downpour. Step 1, wipe out the virus and fix the books. Step 2, secure the evidence trail. Bundle it all up and send it off to the Economic Crime Investigation Bureau and the CSRC. Step 3, my eyes were fixed on the screen. Watching Dingxin Group's stock price soar, I gave the order to reel them in. The top-floor conference room at Lu Group headquarters. The atmosphere was thick enough to choke on. Lu Ruyan was seated at the far end of the long table. Her face was deathly pale. Her eyes were shot through with red. Her expensive white suit was rumpled. She resembled a flower on the verge of fading. The long table was flanked by grim-faced directors and overbearing creditors. It's time to sign, Miss Lu. The speaker was a balding middle-aged man with a comb-over. He was none other than Mr. Wang, the representative of Dingxin Group. She slid an acquisition contract across the table to Lu Ruyan. Her fingers drummed impatiently on the tabletop. We'll acquire all Lu Corporation shares for 1 yuan, and we'll assume all outstanding debts. This is the best offer our Dingxin Group can make. Otherwise, Lu Corporation declares bankruptcy tomorrow. That father of yours, lying in the hospital, won't even be able to cover his medical expenses. He'll end up in jail. Lu Ruyan clenched her jaw, biting her lip until it turned white, until the metallic taste of blood filled his mouth. Uncle Zhao turned his gaze to Zhao Defa, the financial director seated to his right. There's really no way to fix the accounts. Where on earth did that 30 billion go? Zhao Defa sighed, his face a mask of anguish and regret. Ruyan, my dear, I did everything I could. The market has been tough these past few years, and our investments went south. We can't plug the financial hole anymore. Let's follow President Wang's advice. As long as the Green Hills remain, we need not fear a lack of firewood. Lu Ruyan shuts her eyes in utter despair. 15 years ago, he couldn't keep hold of the young boy who gave him a piggyback. Now, 15 years on, he can't even safeguard his father's legacy. He picks up the pen, his hand shaking uncontrollably. The nib drags across the paper, leaving a jagged, ink-blotted trail. Sign it now, Chairman Wang snaps impatiently. The stock exchange closes in 10 minutes. If you don't sign now, there won't be another chance. Just as the pen tip is poised to meet the signature block, suddenly, from the conference room's massive projection screen, a sharp, screeching static noise suddenly erupted. The screen, which had been showing the Lu family stocks hitting the limit-down circuit breaker, abruptly went black, plunging the entire venue into an uproar. What's happening? Is it a blackout? What the hell is going on? The very next moment, on the pitch-black screen, a line of blood-red code flashed into view. Right after that, countless streams of green data cascaded down the screen like a waterfall, scrolling frantically. Zhao Defa's face instantly drained of color. He shot to his feet and yanked out the power cord. Pull the plug immediately. It's a cyber attack. Too late. The screen freezes. A crystal-clear diagram of the money trail unfolds before everyone's eyes. On the left, the accounts of Lu Corporation. On the right, an overseas shell company tied to Dingxin Group. The link between them is highlighted in bold red. A shocking revelation. Illegal transfer request intercepted. Financial system data rolling back, reconstructing. 10, 50, 100, True Ledger restored. Lu Group currently has 12 billion in liquid assets. What is this? The directors present were stunned and speechless. Immediately, the screen transitioned to a new scene. Became Zhao Defa's personal computer desktop screenshot. The background software for modifying data is still running on it, as well as his chat records with President Wang. Old Zhao will give you 3% after the deal is done. Don't worry, Mr. Wang. That little girl from the Lu family doesn't know a thing. They signed after just a couple of threats. A deathly silence. Zhao Defa's legs gave way, and he slumped into the chair, his face deathly pale. President Wang looked as if he'd seen a ghost, his finger trembling as he pointed at the screen. He slandered it as fabricated and illegal. Bang! The conference room's hefty redwood door was kicked wide open. The deafening crash jolted everyone to attention. All eyes turned toward the doorway in unison. There I stood, wearing the outfit Lu Ruyan had bought me that day, a hoodie and jeans. I hadn't even had a chance to change my shoes. On my feet were just a pair of ordinary sneakers. But I stood ramrod straight, my gaze sharp as a blade, sweeping over every elite figure in the room, clad in their bespoke suits. Who dares to say the Lu family is finished? I marched into the boardroom, planting each step with deliberate force, as if each footfall landed squarely on their pounding hearts. Security moved to intercept, but a single glare from me sent them recoiling. The ruthless edge honed from my recent digital slaughter hadn't yet faded, cloaking me in an aura that made me look like a blade freshly drawn from its scabbard. Lu Ruyan could only stare at me, utterly stunned. The pen fell from his hand and clattered onto the desk. Su Qing was stunned, unable to believe his eyes. He thought he had shut him out for good, blocked off every possible path. So why on earth was he here now? Ignoring him, I strode directly over to the still bellowing Manager Wang. You're Wang Gang from Dingsheng Corporation? Manager Wang was momentarily cowed by my demeanor. Struggling to his feet, he blustered, Who are you? Security. Throw him out. I'm here to settle a score. I snatched the acquisition contract off the table, and, right in front of him, slowly and methodically tore it to shreds. Then I flung my hand up, scattering the confetti-like fragments into the air, like a flurry of white snow settling on Mr. Wang's oily face. Your Dingsheng Group is implicated in commercial fraud, illegally pilfering trade secrets, and money laundering. I've already forwarded all the evidence to the Economic Crime Investigation Department. The police should be pulling up to the building any minute now. Mr. Wang's face fell. He fumbled for his phone. When the wail of police sirens pierced the air outside the conference room, then, I leaned in close to his ear and whispered, just loud enough for us two to hear, Thanks for the assist. That last short sell made me a pretty penny. Police officers stormed into the conference room. They immediately apprehended Zhao Defa and President Wang as they tried to flee. Chaos erupted in the room. Every director was looking out for number one. Their defiant, coup-forcing expressions instantly turned into fawning smiles. But I had no time for these fair-weather friends. I turned and saw Lu Ruyan still seated at the head of the table, looking utterly lost, as if her soul had departed. Her eyes met mine, brimming with unshed tears. Yet she stubbornly held them back, refusing to let a single one fall. I told you to go, didn't I? Her voice was raspy with emotion. Didn't I tell you to forget? Are you an idiot? I stepped closer until I stood right before her. I planted my hands on the edge of the conference table, effectively caging her between the chair and the circle of my arms. I looked down at her from my superior height. You keep the 5 million. I'll handle the tens of billions in liabilities myself. What do you take me for, Su Qing? A freeloader? Lu Ruyan finally broke down. Tears welled up and streamed down her face. But I'm broke. Even if the Lu family survives this, it'll be a shadow of its former self. I have nothing left to give you. Enough. I cut him off mid-sentence. I pulled out my phone from my pocket. I opened my brokerage app and thrust the screen right in his face. That's the balance in my futures account. That recent short-selling attack on Dingsheng Group, combined with the nosedive after Dingsheng's scandal broke, turned that initial 1 million capital into a staggering sum. Counting the digits, ones, tens, hundreds, thousands, a full 9 figures. The crimson digits flashed on the screen. Their red glow illuminated Lu Ruyan's stunned face. 100 million. I watched his dumbfounded expression. A roguish grin tugged at the corner of my mouth. I waved the phone before his eyes. This is what I turned your 5 million into. I reached out and softly brushed away her tears. My voice softened, yet held a commanding edge. So, is the dowry sufficient now? A sharp police siren pierced the air in the conference room. The crisp click of handcuffs snapping shut was unmistakable. Zhao Defa's face turned ashen. He was dragged out, flanked by 2 officers. That manager Wang, who mere moments ago had been so arrogant, at this moment, looking utterly defeated like a drowned rat. He hung his head low, trying to hide his face behind his collar. But it was futile against the flashing police lights. The dust had settled. The board members who had been staging a coup just moments ago now stood there, silent as mice, not daring to utter a word. One of them tried to approach me, hoping to cozy up and curry favor, but he was swiftly rebuffed by my icy glare. I turned and looked at Lu Ruyan. He remained frozen in the same position as before, sitting motionless on the chair, utterly dazed. Her eyes followed the police car until it vanished from the doorway, then shifted back to rest on me. The tough facade she had been putting up as the head of the Lu family shattered completely in that instant. She was no longer the wealthy woman who could solve problems by throwing money at them, nor was she the commanding female CEO who masterminded every move. Her shoulders were hunched, and her eyes were rimmed with red. She looked exactly like the little girl from 15 years ago, the one who clung to my back, trembling with fear. I walked over to her and spoke in a gentle voice. That sound was like a trigger being pulled. Lu Ruyan's lips began to quiver. Her tears flooded out without warning. She shot to her feet, but her legs gave way, causing her to stumble. Then, recklessly, she flung herself into my arms. What followed was only heart-wrenching sobs to release after being pushed to the absolute limit. Her hands clutched desperately at the fabric of my hoodie. Her knuckles were white from the force of her grip. Her tears instantly soaked through my shirt to the skin beneath. It was a searing heat. It burned so fiercely it made my heart quake. I lifted my hand and softly patted her back, just as I had soothed him through his high fever on that rainy night. It's okay now, I've got you. A long while later, the quiet sobs against my chest finally stilled. Lu Ruyan lifted her face. Her eyes were puffy and swollen, like walnuts. Her nose was red at the tip, her makeup streaked and ruined. Not a trace remained of the poised heiress she usually was. I pulled out my phone. My fingers danced across the screen a few times. Lu Ruyan's phone on the table buzzed. He instinctively reached for it. The screen displayed a bank deposit alert. Your account has received a transfer of RMB today. 1.2 million yuan. His eyes went wide in an instant. Stunned, he stared at me. The principal is 5.2 million. And the rest is interest. I pocketed my phone, my voice calm and steady. This 100 million was made possible by the chance you gave me. I'm returning it to you. I don't want it. Lu Ruyan grew flustered. She tried to thrust the phone back into my hands. You earned this fair and square with your own capabilities. Besides, the Lu family's cash flow is stable again. We don't need it anymore. You should keep it. I pressed her hand down, my tone leaving no room for argument. Even though the Lu family's financial shortfall has been filled, but the foundation depleted over these past years still needs mending. Consider this money as my investment stake. Don't forget to cut me in on the profits later. Lu Ruyan was on the verge of speaking again, but then, I abruptly dropped to one knee. In the conference room, the secretary who had been gathering files, and the directors who were still there froze mid-action. A dozen pairs of eyes snapped toward us in unison. Lu Ruyan was rooted to the spot, stunned. She stood completely frozen. I even forgot to breathe. From my jeans pocket, I pulled out a small velvet box and opened it. Inside, there was no diamond the size of a pigeon egg, nor any eye-blindingly flashy design. There was only a plain, unadorned silver band. I bought this yesterday when I was passing by the mall. Back then, I hadn't yet ventured onto the dark web, nor had I made my first 100 million. This ring cost me every penny I'd saved from 2 months of moonlighting as a coder. Compared to that massive 100 million yuan, this seems utterly insignificant. But my hand holding it is rock steady, Lu Ruyan. That 100 million was made with your capital, so it's yours. I looked up, meeting her gaze directly. My voice was quiet, yet it resonated through the silent meeting room. But this ring, I forged with my own 2 hands, line by line of code. It's not costly, nor is it precious, but it's pure, and it's wholly mine. Lu Ruyan raised a hand to her mouth. Tears sprang to her eyes once more. That whole past life soulmate story is just too far-fetched, too vague and insubstantial. I can't recall it, nor do I want to. I drew a deep breath, my eyes blazing with intensity. All I remember is from 15 years ago. There was a silly boy, carrying a little mute girl on his back, trudging for miles through the mud. And that silly boy thought to himself back then, this girl is so light. We need to make sure she eats well from now on. I can't do anything about our past life's karma. I held out the ring towards her. But in this lifetime, that Su Qing who carried you on his back wants to walk the rest of the path with you in a different role. Not out of gratitude, nor out of guilt. Simply because I want to hold your hand. Will you let me? Time seemed to stand still. Sunlight streamed through the floor-to-ceiling window, spilling its light between us. The light caught the simple ring, making it sparkle brilliantly. Tears streamed down Lu Ruyan's face, yet a smile broke through. That smile outshone any I had ever seen on her. It was brighter and more authentic than ever. She had let down all her guards. She stopped putting on the airs of a wife from a past life. Nor was she tiptoeing around my pride anymore. She held out her left hand, her fingers slender and elegant. I do, she said, her voice thick with emotion. Yet it was unwavering in its conviction. I slid the ring gently onto his ring finger. It fit perfectly, snug and seamless. The moment it was on, he abruptly sank to his knees. In one swift motion, he threw his arms around my neck and buried himself in my arms once more. This time, he was no longer the giver, nor the aloof guardian looking down from on high. He was like a kitten who had finally found its home. He nuzzled his face into the hollow of my shoulder, drinking in my scent with greedy, shuddering breaths. Su Qing, I'm craving some street food. I want that 5 yuan bubble tea. And I want a ride on the back of your bike again. On the campus in late autumn, the leaves of the plane trees lay scattered on the ground, a blanket of gold. Hand in hand with Lu Ruyan, we took a leisurely stroll down the tree-lined avenue before the library. She had shed that stifling business attire and slipped back into a simple white tee and jeans. Her long hair was tied up in a casual ponytail. With the gentle sway of her steps, the simple ring on her finger gleamed with a soft, warm light in the sun. Students passing by couldn't help but glance her way. This time, there was no fancy car, no bodyguards, and no whirlwind of rumors. There were just two figures walking side by side. Su Qingliuyan suddenly stopped in her tracks. She turned to me, a mischievous grin tugging at her lips. Now that the script from our past life is finished, so maybe we should switch up the husband title too? I arched an eyebrow, teasingly, and what would you like to call me instead? Hubby, I love you. She gave our clasped hands a gentle, playful shake. Tilting her head, her eyes crinkled into happy little crescents. In that moment, it was as if time had rewound 15 years. Back to the little girl who used to ride piggyback on me, had finally regained her utterly carefree smile. She leaned in close, her voice sweet and soft as marshmallow. With a sweet, pleading lilt to her voice, she said, Big brother Siking. This life of ours, traversing 15 long years of life and death, partings and reunions, bridging the gap between the haves and the have-nots. At this very moment, a perfect circle was completed. My heart skipped a beat as I took her hand, and instinctively tightened my grip. Ah, I replied with a soft laugh. Sunlight filtered through the gaps in the leaves, casting dappled patterns of light and shadow across her face. Her smile was radiant, and in her eyes, I saw only my own reflection. Not far off, Lin Wan was just stepping out of the teaching building, arms laden with books. She witnessed the scene, noting the absence of any luxury car waiting for her. They wore no designer labels, only two hands, fingers tightly interlocked, and that plain, unadorned ring. She stopped in her tracks, her teeth sinking into her lip. A tumult of emotions swirled in her gaze, bitter resentment mixed with a sliver of undeniable envy. A breeze swept by, scattering a handful of dry leaves. I ignored the stares from those around us. I reached for Lu Ruyan's hand and slipped it into the warmth of my hoodie pocket. Come on, let's go get some meat. Should we cut it into diamond shapes this time? No need. Whatever shape you feed me is fine.